Hey, today's April 12th, and I'm going to be talking about the four trades I took today, which were on SPY, Boeing, then I took Microsoft, and then finally BABA. I traded a little bit. I took a lot of trades today. I usually don't take four trades, it's usually somewhere from one to three, but I saw two good opportunities at the end, so uh, that's why I decided to take them. I'll always take a good setup, so I never have a limit on how many times I have to trade for a day. Some days I may not trade at all if nothing sets up. But the first trade I took today was on SPY, so let's go to ES first. You can ignore all of these demand zones, uh, and a lot of these demand zones stack up, especially for SPY and QQQ. But just looking at a daily chart quickly, we are trending straight up. I did, however, take a short on this, even though SPY was trending up, and I will go over that short play right now. This was probably my one bad trade, which I could have avoided. I took two losers and two winners. This one was a break even slash small loss, but it was definitely an avoidable trade for a couple of reasons. So let's start off with yeah. So I'm gonna look at this chart for ES. You can ignore this chart over here. So you can see that SPY in the overnight session was forming this sort of channel from demand. We immediately came up. We tested this upper trend line in supply at market open, and we started heading lower. My the oh, sorry about that. My entry was the break of this trend line for a couple of reasons. One, we were rejecting supply, even though we barely broke through. I didn't invalidate it at the time. I thought that we barely moved lower. We tested this upper trend line. A break below this lower trend line could easily trigger 2 hour demand, and that's exactly what happened. But it didn't happen at the time I wanted it to. Uh, Quickly looking at NQ, this is where I went wrong. You can see that NQ bounced off of demand at 9:30. Even though the reaction was weak, there's always a possibility that we could have formed a double bottom and moved higher. There wasn't any clear signs of us basing in demand and moving lower. At this point in time, given this amount of data, it looks possible for more upside continuation on NQ. Uh, so one of my rules is I will never trade SPY puts if NQ is in demand or is bullish, or I will never take SPY calls if NQ is in supply slash bearish. And this clearly broke one of my rules. Uh, I took SPY puts, even though the SPY chart looked good. NQ did not look good at all. We looked good for more upside, and I think that's a reason why this trade didn't work out. Obviously, we got this nice move down. I didn't scale out. Hindsight, I should have, but I mean, I entered somewhere here, and as soon as we started coming above, I stopped out for break even. So I only lost $8 on this trade. But it's not really about the money. A it's more about my execution, my reasoning. Why did I take this trade? And I got a little bit lucky that I only lost $8, but this could have gone a lot more worse. And unless the entire market is telling me to enter, everything aligns, I simply want to avoid the trade. So that was my SPY puts trade. Now let's go over to Boeing. As always, start from the daily. Mm, Nothing really too Boeing. I mean, we've been range bound for the last week or two, just trading up and down. So not really a bias beforehand. Just playing the levels and playing the zones. Now, if you go down to a 5 minute time frame, you can clearly see that you can see a couple of things. One, Boeing doesn't have demand all the way down till this 243 area, which is I think a key level. Let me check. No, it's 241. My bad. But Boeing doesn't have a key level, and it doesn't have demand, for a long way down. So there's definitely downside possibility on Boeing. You can see that the first candle on Boeing had massive amount of volume. It had this huge upper wick, huge red candle, and you can clearly see that ES's first candle was green, straight up, no upper wick, extremely bullish. Boeing did the complete opposite, super bearish. So because Boeing follows ES and not really NQ, I was looking at ES for Boeing. You can see that it clearly has relative weakness. Uh, we hold below VWAP. We form this 5 minute drop, base drop. In hindsight, a good entry was here, but I mean, it was just too close to market open. As I said before, NQ was still somewhat in demand at this point. We had the possibility to bounce, so I didn't really want to. I really didn't want to rush into things. I already took one losing trade at this point. I just wanted things to play out a little bit more. But as soon as we got this nice move down, uh, ES still had a little bit of room to Boeing, so I was kind of treating this as a quick scalp going in just because we had demand down here. NQ broke demand, had the possibility to move into 3 hour. So where I entered was this 5 minute. Uh, I entered right here at 10. Let me quickly highlight where ES was at the time. So you can see that Boeing had room to run lower and ES wouldn't be in its way. So I entered right at 10 o'clock, right here. When we formed this drop, base drop, my confirmations were relative weakness, a 5 minute drop base drop, a good volume throughout. A lot of times we usually sell off in volume, but this wasn't the case. We had consistent volume, nice volume. So this is why I entered at 10. And you can see that at the time ES was here, so it definitely had room to run a couple of points lower. And because Boeing was relatively weak, it could accelerate faster than ES could to the downside and potentially hit my 90-minute target. Yes, we didn't really break a key level or something like that, uh, in hindsight, obviously, but I still think that while this wasn't the best trade, this was still a good enough setup for me to take. I had my stop right above the spacing candle, targeting 90-minute demand, so the risk to reward was definitely there. I eventually got chopped out. Uh, I had some hopes at this 10-10 candle. Obviously, we had no follow through. Came back up, and I stopped out right here at the formation or at the beginning of this 10-20 candle. So I was in the trade for 20 minutes. I At this point I fully accepted my risks. I knew I was gonna lose 40 to $50 if this didn't work out, and that's exactly what happened. I lost $40. And I think the thing to realize here is that I wasn't really disappointed in losing $40 because I knew overall that this was a very good trade. My other trade, which I lost $8 on, that's the one I was disappointed on. Even though I lost less money, it was not as good as a trade as Boeing. So at this point, I'm down 0 for 2 on the day, down $48. And at this point, I'm thinking about walking away just because uh, I know that losing $48 isn't really that much because I know one green trade can put me up very, very nicely on the day. So I'm not really too worried about the money, and I'm just at this point waiting for another setup. So at this point, you can see that ES and NQ until here really did absolutely nothing. I remember getting up around like 10:30, 10:40, and going to take a shower, eating breakfast just because, nothing was really happening. I mean, this is chop. This is conditions which you don't want to trade in. I did try to force one trade, didn't work out. This trade I think was good in hindsight. It wasn't as good. It didn't work out, but I'm fine with that because this could have easily headed lower and been a nice winning trade. But my next trade was on Microsoft. And I feel like I go over the daily on Microsoft a lot, but as we all know, Microsoft broke all-time highs, is holding it very well, forming new demand on the way up. It's been a beast lately. I mean, it's moved from 230 all the way to almost 260 now. So absolutely no reason to short Microsoft. We're gapping up and we're moving higher, which is just extreme signs of bullish action. If we go to a 5 minute chart, uh, we can clearly see that while Microsoft may have not shown relative strength in the morning, I feel like I always cover relative strength based on the first couple of candles, but you can clearly see that ES and NQ made lower lows. Let me just highlight that right here. So actually this was our first low right here. This is low 1 on ES. This is the second low. Let me remove this so you're confused. And this was the third low right here. So ES made lower lows. This is something Dylan talks about all the time. Same thing on NQ. Our first low, even though this wasn't really a low, I'll still count it. We had our first low right here, second low right here, and the main thing is this second and third low. You can see that we broke low a day, and we formed lower lows. But what did Microsoft do? Uh, yes, we didn't have clear signs of relative strength right at market open. We were choppy, but what we did form was this first low right here, and we started to form lower highs. So while the general market ES and NQ were making lower lows, Microsoft was making lower highs. So that's a clear indication of that. That's a clear indication of relative strength. At this point, I saw that ES bounced nicely off of 2 hour demand. NQ is moving up. I didn't think we were gonna hit 3 hour demand, and this right here was our previous all-time high. We highlighted right here. So we didn't have any key levels because we've been straight up, but you can see that Microsoft had its all-time high at 256.9. So around 257 was Microsoft's all-time high. And all-time high is a very key level, which I know a lot of traders watch, a lot of scalpers, day traders. So 257 is definitely a key level of importance. The reason why I entered is one, we formed lower highs, so we had relative strength. We had this nice 5 minute rally base and rally, and my entry was at the bottom of this candle when I saw volume come in, and this was the key reason why I took this trade. I knew that Microsoft had relative strength, but I wanted volume to confirm the move up. And I didn't take this all-time high break. I always like to enter a little bit before the break if I have enough confirmation. And in this case, I saw that not only did we have volume, not only did we have relative strength, but we formed this nice 5 minute RBNR. So there was a high possibility that we could potentially test all-time highs and move higher. I entered right here, and as soon as we broke all-time highs, we formed this upper wick really, really fast. The premium spiked really fast as well, so always like to scale one out on the way up. I took one contract off right here. And just looking now at ES and NQ, ES and NQ are still in their choppy phase, so I don't have much expectations from Microsoft. And this is something I really want to go over. If ES and NQ were moving straight up, impulse moves up, then yeah, Microsoft would have definitely broke all-time highs and ran higher. But you can see that ES and NQ are both choppy. So I'm going into this trade treating it as a scalp as opposed to a day trade. And that's just something you have to be aware of. If you're trading in choppy conditions, Carmine always says trade like a scalper, and then when there's a clear trend, trade like a day trader. So that's why as soon as this candle closed and we failed to hold above all-time highs, took one contract off for about a 30-40 cent gain. as always, whenever I'm in profits, I move my stop to break even. So as soon as this 11:15 candle started heading lower, I took my final position off for break even. Uh, it's another lesson of whenever you're in profits, never let the trade go red on you. You can adjust your stop. You can change your profit target. But in this case, my stop was fairly conservative because my target was fairly conservative. My stop would have been a 5 minute close below 256.5. So, yep, that was my Microsoft trade. Really, not much to it. It was just a quick scalp because market conditions didn't really permit. But let's finally go over BABA, which was my last trade, and this was my biggest winner of the day. So BABA was actually the only thing on my watch list today, uh, going into the market. I noticed that BABA gapped up $14 or something like that in pre-market, and for BABA to gap up that much in pre-market is it it's big news. And I know a lot of traders are watching this for the upside, but one important thing is that you can't see it now because I removed it, but we had a stacked supply in this area. Uh, just actually, I'll just change it to red. So we had stacked supply in this area. So while a lot of retail traders are thinking to go long, I'm thinking that uh so yeah, this pink box, now I removed it, but this was an area of stacked supply. So a lot of retail traders are thinking to go long. I'm also thinking to go long as well, but I'm waiting to see if we can actually get above supply, potentially base in supply for a move higher. Or do we just reject supply immediately and head lower? So Baba was definitely an area of interest for me, and you can clearly see that we moved right up. We somewhat rejected slash based in this daily supply. So while sellers had the opportunity to bring us lower, buyers stepped right back in. And this is something I talk about in almost every video. How the market will always move from periods of impulse, nice impulse move up, to areas of consolidation on lower volume, hence consolidation, and then back to moves of impulse, hence higher volume. So yeah, impulse consolidation, impulse. I see this pattern almost every day, or and this pattern tends to work out a lot. So I knew I was looking at a couple of areas of interest. First was high a day, which was around 242.7. I don't like to trade high day breakouts, but what I do like to trade are intraday resistance breakouts. And you can clearly see that uh, Baba came up at 942, rejected here at 242.7/5, came back again at 1005 and 1010, rejected here and started moving lower. So if buyers can get us above this level, there's a possibility that we will head higher. So on top of a break above this key level, clear relative strength, this nice impulse consolidation impulse pattern, what really caught my eye was this 45-minute rally, base rally. We had a nice rally candle. We had an upper wick, but this was nonetheless a very nice rally candle. This is like the perfect basing candle you can have, sandwiched right between both rally candles. A very small base as well. And finally at 11 we had this nice rally candle, and this is where I entered. My exact entry was right here on this 5 minute RB&R. So actually there were a ton of confirmations. I was anticipating the break of this 242.7 intraday resistance level. We had a 45-minute RBR, impulse consolidation, impulse pattern, and relative strength. The reason why I didn't enter right here is because to me this is a move of impulse. We had four straight green candles. I didn't want to enter on the fifth straight green candle just because to me that's chasing. We need some sort of base before moving higher. And we got that base at 11:30, so I entered at 11:35. As always, I talked about in this market, or especially today, we were chopping around a lot. So because of that, I'm going into this trade as a scalp. I'm being conservative with my targets. I'm not expecting the move we did have on Baba. I was expecting maybe a move to high day and a fail, and that's where I would take profits. So, yes, in hindsight, it looks bad. I definitely should have held both of my contracts or scaled my first one out later, but I ultimately ended up taking one contract off at the top of this 11:35 candle just because of market conditions, right? This is pure chop, so I'm very, very conservative with my targets, and I'm going into this trade treating it as a scalp. You can see that at this 11:40, and also now my stop was break even, so this trade can never go red on me. What really caught my eye though was this 11:40 candle. We break above uh this intraday resistance level and we hold above it with barely any upper wick. So at this point I'm thinking that okay, we close super bullish. There's no reason to take profits here. I'm going to continue to hold this. The 11:45 candle might premium spike even more. We have a huge move up. I'm able to capitalize on this, and because I only have one contract left, my final target was 245. But just because I had already sold 50% of my position, I wanted to play it safe, especially because of the market conditions, and I took my final contract off at 244 when we rejected and moved lower. If I did have more contracts, I definitely would have let some ride, even though they would have stopped out for break even. Because given this amount of data, we have straight green candles up, so there's technically no reason to sell. But just because I had one contract left, I wanted to play it safe, and hence I sold at 1150. And this trade was able to turn my $48 loss in the morning to a somewhere around $100+ winning day. So yep, that's the entire video. I know this one was very long, but I hope you understand why sometimes I go into trades treating it as scalps opposed to day trades. Why on some days I have conservative targets, and why if neither Microsoft or Baba set up, I would be completely fine walking away with a $48 loss on a Monday, just because I know that there are always better days to come, and one green trade can put me nicely up on the week. But nonetheless, today was a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow for more.